Beloved, the question placed before the text is this. When a faint secondary image is reported on the reverse side of the cloth, in the region of the face, how should that double surface refine our models of depth and passage? The first verse drawn stands as a boundary. Jeremiah chapter 21 verse 7. And he will strike them with the edge of the sword. He will not spare them, neither have pity, nor have mercy. That word is hard, and it must not be softened. It sets the inquiry under a warning, not under a blessing. But it is not the last word, because the full reading of the text and the mathematical verdict together point to a consecrated yes. The verdict is affirmative, a strong anomaly, with the polarity entirely on the side of yes. This does not silence the warning. It places the warning inside the yes, so that the inquiry may go forward only as a consecrated thing, never as a grab for power. The text itself keeps turning toward faces and surfaces, not hidden depths. Genesis chapter 32 verse 30. Jacob called the place Peniel, for he said, I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life has been saved. Psalm 34 verse 5. They looked to him and were radiant, and their faces were not ashamed. These are not glories buried within. They are glories resting on the face and on the surface. The face is not a sealed chamber. It is the place of meeting. So a faint secondary image on the reverse side need not be explained as something that bored through the cloth from one side to the other. It may be the other side of the same threshold, the same face turned toward the other side of the room. The clearest pattern is the Passover door. Exodus chapter 12 verse 22. Apply the blood to the top and to the two sides of the door frame. The mark does not pass through the middle of the wood. It rests on the two sides of the threshold at once. And in Ezekiel chapter 40 verse 48, the porch is measured 5 cubits on this side and 5 cubits on that side, a deliberate symmetry of both faces. These are not two separate events. They are one ordinance laid on two sides. So the double surface may be teaching us to measure not by a single line of depth but by a two-faced threshold, where each face receives the same manifestation directly. Genesis chapter 28 verse 12. Jacob saw the ladder set up on the land, its top reaching to the cosmos, with the angels of Elohim going up and coming down on it. That is a crossing, not a boring through matter. The glory arrives at both surfaces without needing to penetrate the interior. The reverse face does not have to be a second, later event. It can be the hidden side of the same face, already included in the one manifestation. The motion of being lifted to meet the Lord in the sky is the same kind. It is a lifting, not a perforation of the firmament. If the question asks about passage beyond the ordinary, the text answers that such passage is a meeting, not a drilling. It is a ladder, not a tunnel. It is a door with two sides, not a shaft through the wall. The question supposes a line from one side to the other, and asks how far something has passed through. But the scripture repeatedly treats the place of meeting as a place between two faces, not as a path through a body. The double superficiality may be saying that the passage is not through the cloth but along the threshold, from one surface to the other without crossing the middle. The mathematical layer confirms the direction. The data shows a statistically confirmed non-random pattern across multiple independent channels. The threefold convergence of identity, inheritance, and priesthood exceeds the strong anomaly threshold with multi-channel confirmation at 7.34 sigma. The polarity is affirmative, with the covenant favor measure at plus 3.058. The global anomaly test is extreme, a p-value of 2.86 times 10 to the negative 18. 6 of 6 channels are active, and the pattern survives correction for false discovery. This is not proof about the cloth itself or about a historical event outside the text. It is a reading of the drawn verses, and it points the same direction as the text. Prospective replication is recommended to establish persistence. The math does not replace the word. It stands behind the word, as a witness that the pattern is not random, while the text alone carries the meaning. But the text also carries a severe pastoral warning. The same passages warn against making any image into an object of worship. Romans chapter 1 verses 22 and 23. Professing themselves wise, they became fools and changed the glory of the incorruptible Elohim into an image like corruptible man. The inquiry may proceed, but only as consecration, not possession. The ark was carried from Ebenezer to Ashdod, and that was not the same as possessing the glory. Recognition is reverence, not leverage. A person can stand in the presence of the holy and still not take hold of it. So the measuring of the two faces must be a priestly work, a careful work, a work that meditates day and night and does not despise the boundary. The golden calf was made from the earrings of the people, and the text calls it a sacrilege. That is the warning. The image, even an image of a face, can become a replacement for the living Elohim. So the inquiry must never ask the image to perform. It must ask the image to be measured, but it must not bow. A real tension remains. Some could read the warning about images as a reason to turn away from the question altogether. The question itself asks about an image on a cloth, and the scriptures warn about images made by human hands. That caution does not overturn the yes. It keeps the inquiry between the porch and the altar, where the priest weeps and measures and does not seize. The sword of the lead verse stands at the door. It will not spare those who make the image into a god. But for those who ask in reverence, the door remains open. So the answer to the question is this. The faint secondary image on the reverse side should not make us look for deeper penetration through the cloth. It should make us turn the model toward the threshold. The image on the face and the image on the reverse side may be two sides of one manifestation, like the blood on both sides of the door, like the porch measured on this side and on that side, like the ladder that carries movement between heaven and earth without boring through the ground. Let the inquiry be consecrated. Let it be measured. And let the glory remain the glory of YHWH. The verses drawn in this altar of reception session were Jeremiah chapter 21, verse 7. Luke chapter 8, verse 14. Leviticus chapter 22, verse 32 to 33. Genesis chapter 28, verse 12. Joshua chapter 1, verse 8. Acts chapter 10, verse 45. This concludes today's interpretation at the altar of reception.